Welcome all of you. I am Aman Soni and I am giving you an overview of the economics portion for the CUET exam. So I can say it's economics or business economics. Code is 309 and this is I am giving you syllabus for the class 10, class 12. It's telling a syllabus of class 12 but it also includes syllabus of class 11th also. Alright, so let me just go through it. So there will be one question paper for economics section and for that there will be a total of 50 questions. In those 50 questions, you have to attempt 40. So like this gives you a really good option that if you have to attempt 40 questions out of 50, then what can you do? In case you haven't revised your syllabus thoroughly, you can also skip certain portions. If you're not comfortable in certain portions, it's better you leave them. Look, all questions will be MCQs. Look, in MCQs, the simple thing is that yes, we have a question and then we have got 4 options also. But at the same time, MCQs, they tend to confuse us also because the dates, if it is like when was a book written, the dates are to be very, very close. If it's a numerical, the numerical answers will be very, very close. So if there's a confusion in MCQs, there are chances that your answer will become wrong. So I would suggest you that instead of doing 100% syllabus with 80% comprehensiveness, I would suggest you do 80% syllabus with 100% comprehensiveness. This is I would suggest, because if you do even 80% syllabus with 100% comprehensiveness, that is, you are very, very sure about what you are doing, then this question, this thing, it will not lead to wrong answers. And we don't have to get wrong answers. Alright, because it is MCQs. Thing is, till now you guys haven't attempted MCQs. You guys have gone through objective questions, you guys have gone through subjective questions, but MCQs is a totally new thing for you. So in MCQs, do not get confused. You have to be very, very sure before marking an option. Alright. So you need to go, if you're not comfortable in complete syllabus, if you haven't revised all syllabus completely, then I would suggest do not go for 100% syllabus with 80% comprehensiveness. I would suggest you go with 80% syllabus, 100% comprehensiveness, because there is choice in the question also. You have to attempt only 40 out of 50. Alright. Now let me tell you about the syllabus. So first unit which have been given in the syllabus is Introduction to Microeconomics. So here we will be discussing what is microeconomics, how it's different from macroeconomics, what are the central problems like what to produce, how to distribute, that is for whom to distribute, for whom to produce. All these questions will be taken up in this section. In this section, like total there are 10 units. Alright, total there are 10 units, but obviously questions will not be divided among all the units equally. Some units will contain more number of questions. So in this introduction to macroeconomics, I am expecting only one. I am expecting only one question from this particular unit. Alright. Second unit, it is consumer behavior and demand. Look, in this section, in this unit, we will be discussing about consumers' equilibrium, consumer satisfaction, what is the meaning and attainment of equilibrium through utility approach, what is utility. Then we will also discuss the demand. We will discuss theory of demand, we will discuss elasticity of demand. So what is market demand, what is determinants of demand, we will discuss demand curve, supply curve. We will discuss demand schedule, demand curve, movement and shifts in the demand curve, that the demand curve will be like this, what happens to the demand curve, we will discuss. Then price elasticity of demand. Thing is, from this I am expecting 1 or 2 questions. Consumers equilibrium. In demand, elasticity of demand, using different methods, in this chapter I am expecting anything around 3 to 4 questions. So the demand chapter and elasticity of demand chapter you need to do comprehensively. These two chapters are very, very, very important. Consumers equilibrium and demand portion is very, very important. Then we'll come to, so in microeconomics we have a lot of concepts, but surprisingly the exam is taking very, very few concepts from microeconomics. It is focusing more on macroeconomics and 11th class NCERT. So macroeconomics it is completely covering. So here we'll be discussing what is the meaning of macroeconomics. Then we'll discuss the circular flow of income. We'll discuss all those GDP aggregates. We'll discuss what is GDP, what is GNP, what is GDP at market price, GDP at factor cost, what is GNP at market price, what is depreciation, what is what is nominal GDP, what is real GDP, what is GDP deflator. All these things we'll be discussing, and we'll also be discussing the measurement of national income method, what is value addition method, income method, expenditure method, what is total demand. All these things we'll be discussing. We'll also be discussing the new method of GDP calculation, the GVA method, where we discuss about compensation, where we discuss about production taxes, product taxes, production subsidies, product subsidies. All these things we are going to discuss. And again, these two chapters, especially this chapter, measurement of national income, I think this chapter will be very, very important. You will get around 3 to 4 questions from this chapter. All right, measurement of national income. And here also, I am talking about both this. Let's take both these chapters, and let's keep it say 4 to 5 questions. Remember the formulas. From formulas, you may get the questions. As we discussed, we'll discuss aggregate demand, aggregate supply and their components. Then we'll also discuss what is the propensity to consume and what is the propensity to save. We'll discuss both average propensity and marginal propensity. We'll discuss what is involuntary unemployment, what is voluntary unemployment, what is involuntary unemployment. Then we'll discuss various other types of employment, seasonal unemployment, disguised unemployment, how to measure unemployment, those things we'll discuss. Then we'll discuss determination of income and employment, a two-sector model. This chapter is going to be very, very important, determination of income and employment. We'll discuss how does investment multiplier works and what are the problems of excess demand. If there is excess demand, what's the problem in the economy? If there is deficient demand, what problem it causes in the economy? And we'll also discuss its current application also, the excess demand as well as the deficient demand. Measures to correct excess and deficient demand. We'll discuss how credit change in government spending, how can availability of credit and the change in government spending, that is how can monetary policy and fiscal policy, how can they counter or how can they help during excess demand and in deficient demand. What will be their role when there is deficient demand or when there is excess demand? All right. Then next chapter will be money and banking. In this chapter we'll discuss about money. We'll discuss what is the meaning of money, what is its significance, what was barter system, what were the drawbacks in barter system, what was like coincidence of demand. Then we'll discuss the central bank. Central bank means in this case RBI. Like when was RBI set up, on whose recommendations RBI was set up, what are the various functions of RBI we'll discuss. We'll also discuss the commercial banks. What's the meaning of commercial bank? Like what is a scheduled commercial bank? What are its functions? How can it help in like supply of credit? In this chapter, here we'll also discuss various ways by which the demand can be increased or decreased by the central bank. Like we'll discuss repo rate, open market operations, what is SLR, what are reserve requirements, assets and liabilities of the banks. All these things we'll discuss. Look, this chapter is very, very important. To be honest, this chapter, though a very small chapter, small units, you can get 3 to 4 questions from this chapter. All right. Next is government budget and economy. In this chapter, government budget and economy, we'll discuss what is government's budget, what are various components of government's budget like revenue account, capital account, and then from revenue account and capital account, we'll discuss the receipts. We'll discuss revenue receipts, capital receipts. Revenue receipts, two types: tax revenue receipts, non-tax revenue receipts, which are various types of tax receipts, various types of non-tax receipts, two types of capital receipts, debt creating capital receipts, non-debt creating capital receipts. What are their components? We'll discuss. We'll discuss what are the objectives of government budget. All right. Then this chapter also includes other concepts like what is a balanced budget, a surplus budget, a deficit budget, what are the objectives or what are the consequences of a surplus budget or a deficit budget. Then we'll discuss various types of deficits. Various types of deficits which we have are revenue deficit, fiscal deficit, primary deficit, budget deficit. What all these deficits we have? What are there? What's the meaning of these deficits? What are the implications of these deficits? And how to contain these deficits? It is also a very, very important part. Again, from this budget chapter, I am expecting 3 to 4 questions. Next chapter will be about balance of payments. In this chapter of balance of payment, we will discuss what is balance of payment, what is current account, what is capital account, components of current account like balance of trade, balance of services, net transferable income, net factor income, services income. All right. Then we'll discuss about, exchange rate we'll also discuss. Well, in this case, we'll discuss capital account, current account, both account we'll discuss. We'll discuss various types of exchange rate like fixed exchange rate, floating exchange rate, managed floating exchange rate, what is Bretton Woods system, what is gold standard, all these things we'll discuss. All right. Then that was about the 12th class. What is we are getting in the 12th class like microeconomics and macroeconomics. Now from unit 8, 9, 10, you see this 12th class has been given a total of 7 units. 11th class have been just given 3 units. So obviously you should focus more on 12th class. As per syllabus, you should focus more on 12th class, less on 11th class. At the same time, 11th class is also very, very easy. You just need to read it once and you will be able to memorize things. There won't be many questions also. There won't be many difficult concepts also. So I would suggest you focus more on 12th class than 11th class. Okay. So in 12th class, first chapter is First chapter is a brief introduction of state of Indian economy. That is, we'll discuss what happened in Indian economy from pre-independence. Before 1947, what happened, we'll discuss it. We'll discuss that part. Because if we want to know what is the status of Indian economy now, we need to know what happened in Indian economy for 200 years before independence. Because the exact status of Indian economy now is based on the 200 years of exploitation done by Britishers of Indian economy. So what happened to Indian agriculture sector, Indian industrial sector, Indian infrastructure, Indian human development in British period, we'll discuss in this chapter. And then in the next chapter, we'll discuss Indian economy from 1950 to 1990. All right. Again, we'll discuss the same thing: agriculture, infrastructure, human development, rural development from 1950s to 1990s. All right. Because we have discussed the history of economics, now we'll discuss the present of economics. All right. So we'll discuss the main features, the problems and policies of agriculture like institutional aspect and new agriculture. Here we'll discuss land reforms, green revolution, industrial policy like industrial policy resolution 1956, the items reserved for small scale industries. All right. Foreign trade, how did we restrict foreign trade by imposing quota and by imposing high import duties. All right. I just missed one thing over here, because that's what we are going to discuss, that we'll be also discussing the LPG reforms. We'll also discuss the LPG reforms which we brought in 1991. Various types of liberalization, privatization and globalization reforms. Liberalization like reforms in financial sector, reforms in industrial sector, reforms in foreign trade, reforms in taxation. These things we'll discuss. How did we encourage privatization? Okay? By strategic disinvestment, by token disinvestment. What is globalization? How integration is helping India? These will be discussed in the chapter LPG reforms. From these 3 chapters, you can get a total of 3 to 4 questions. Alright, from these 3 chapters. Then we'll discuss what are the various challenges from which Indian economy is suffering. The various challenges which Indian economy is suffering. First is poverty. In poverty, we'll discuss who decides poverty line in India. How do we identify poor in India? Alright, we'll discuss various committees like Alag Committee, Lakdawala Committee, Rangarajan Committee. Okay. Then also we'll discuss what steps government is taking to alleviate poverty, like trickle down effect, like schemes like Manrega, PSU, setting up of PSUs. All these steps were taken by the government to alleviate poverty. Then we'll discuss human capital formation, like role of skills, education and health in human capital formation, and what is the advantage of human capital formation to economy of India. Alright, then next chapter will be rural development, because why are you focusing on rural development is that if 60% of Indian population stays in rural areas, it means India stays in rural areas. If we want to bring economic growth of India, economic development of India, then we need to focus on rural areas. So here we'll discuss key issues like credit in rural areas. We'll discuss money lenders, the drawbacks of money lenders, scheduled commercial banks, why they haven't been able to integrate with the rural setup. We'll discuss agricultural marketing, APMCs, why did we bring APMCs, agricultural diversification of crops, diversification of farmers' economic activities into agriculture and non-economic activities, focusing more on allied activities. That is the diversification part. Again, from these 3 chapters, you may expect 1 questions, hardly again 3 to 4 questions. Yeah. Next challenge which Indian economy is suffering from, employment. So here the main focus will be on informalization of employment, that what is formal sector, what is informal sector, organized and unorganized. Then what are the challenges which labors of informal sector suffer, what exactly is informal sector, and why is like we are having casualization of employees now, why we are having informalization of employment now, what is the percentage or what is the share of women and men in rural areas, in urban areas, in organized sector and unorganized sector, in PSUs and in private sector. Alright, all these ratio of women and men and women will be discussing. This chapter I found out to be very, very important. From this chapter you can get around 2 to 3 questions. Alright. Next chapter will be infrastructure. Infrastructure, we can divide infrastructure into 2 parts. Physical infrastructure and social infrastructure. I can say economic infrastructure or physical infrastructure and social infrastructure. In case of physical infrastructure, we have roads, railways, ports, airports. In case of social infrastructure, we have schools, hospitals, colleges. All right. So here in this chapter, we'll discuss both. What is economic or physical infrastructure, what is social infrastructure, and what are the advantages of them. And all right, and then we'll focus more on energy and health infrastructure. To be specific, we'll be focusing on energy and health. The next chapter will be on sustainable economic development. What is sustainable economic development? When we grow, when we develop by not compromising the growth prospects of future generations, that is called sustainable development. So how sustainable development is working, how are we polluting environment while taking care of our growth, all these things we'll discuss. All right. Next chapter will be a comparative study as compared to our neighbors. We'll be discussing Indian economic growth vis-a-vis growth of Pakistan, growth of China. Alright, that comparative studies will be done. At the same time, we'll also discuss various indicators focusing on human development, like Human Development Index, Multidimensional Poverty Index, all these things we'll discuss. Okay. Now, this was about syllabus. This syllabus we are going to cover. There's no second thought in that. We'll be covering the syllabus comprehensively for you. And what I'll be doing is I'll be covering syllabus in 3 ways. The syllabus of microeconomics, I'll be discussing them just as your teachers did in the classrooms. Alright, but if I talk about macroeconomics and Indian economic development, that is 11th class NCERT, those things I'll be discussing through PowerPoints. Alright, because there we have to discuss a lot of theory, lot of things have to be memorized, hence we'll be discussing it through PPTs, but microeconomics, as we need to remember things through curves and all, I'll be discussing them through blackboard system, the traditional method of teaching system. That is the teaching part. What about your evaluation? What about your practice? So for practice, what we have done is, I'm giving you 1000 MCQs. I'm giving you 1000 practice MCQs, approximately, like what do we have is, we have around 10 units. From each unit, I'm giving you 100 MCQs with solution for practice. For example, you can see this. These are the questions. These are the questions from 11th class NCERT, like what's the limitation of cordial approach of marginal utility theory? Why can indifference curve not a straight line? Which lies demonstrated by the fact that second glass of lemonade gives lesser satisfaction to a thirsty boy. Alright, what is diminishing utility? We'll discuss these things. This is just a screenshot of what type of questions will be given. Then these are the questions from 11th class NCERT. That is, upliftment of poorest is known as what? In the pre-independence India, who first discussed the concept of poverty line? Dadabhai Naoroji. Who gave the concept of jail cost of living? Again, Dadabhai Naoroji. So these small things we need to focus so that we are able to revise most efficiently. Alright. So these MCQs will be helping in, these are the questions from say macroeconomics, like external debt, IMF, new economic policies. So these MCQs, they will not only be helping you in evaluation, they will be helping you in practicing MCQs also, how to do in a specific time period, how to remove your confusion, how to be very specific in solving a MCQ. Alright. So that's it from my side for your economics preparation. Thank you for listening and all the best for your exam. Take care.